returned from the dead, or from just not filming last week because we had technical issues. The technical issues were camera wasn't working. The camera wasn't working because the cameraman had to be somewhere else. Just like next week, we're gonna die again. Oh no, I'm not worthy of my ring. But
I never stay buried.
But yeah, death won't shut me up.
No.
Death can't stop my talking. It can only delay it a little. It's the dread review show, F3G2. Good night, interwebs. See you next week. It's like we kill you in the morning. This is like a Harry Potter wand if Hogwarts existed in the Flintstones. Yabba dabba cadabra. So
have you actually read the Flintstones book at all?
I hate the Flintstones. I hate the cartoon. I haven't read. I don't know if I read the first issue of the comic. It was okay. I just didn't care because even as a kid I always hated the Flintstones. Maybe it's because my dad constantly watched the Honeymooners, and even as a kid I realized this is just the Honeymooners done badly with dinosaurs. And
which it was.
And yeah, I hated it. I hated the Flintstones and the Jetsons. But all right, we got a small week. I only brought one book from, well, there's two books in here from last week. One because it got shorted to this store, so my Captain America Steve Rogers is in here. But most important, the only truly upsetting part for me from last week was I got my text from Big Sexy Dave saying that he couldn't make it, and I was like, but Blue Beetle came out this week. We have to review Blue Beetle, or the world how will the world survive without knowing what I've waited all these years for Ted Kord to be like, hey, it's me. And here he is. Well, that's Jaime. Hi, Jaime. You look kind of he looks kind of like freaky happy. He's like, but it's Cully, and Cully Hamner, you know, did the variant cover because, hey, he was there. He was the guy who designed that Blue Beetle and gave me my first false hope by having the motif that looks sort of like Ted's costume, and made me go, oh, you know, maybe the scarab. No, it's not on Ted. But this was interesting on many levels. One, it was just really, really well done. It had that kind of Young Justice, Ben 10 kind of fun kid with powers. The Marvel Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon. You know, there's this kid who doesn't really want this responsibility, but is, you know, I mean, he's not having fun. Ted's having a lot more fun in this. But the book itself was fun. Also, you know, yeah, we got Ted Kord with having built the bug and wearing goggles, and Ted Kord's uniform is now the Blue Beetle. The new 52 Blue Beetle T-shirt is Ted Kord's costume, so I'm happy with that. Interestingly enough, whereas I'm a huge Keith Giffen fan. Apparently, since he was like my writing hero during my formative high school years, that clearly rubbed off because now I think enough like him that sure, I've published I've got my own superhero who's been published called The Bug, who's a wisecracking idiot based on me. At least he was based on me in high school. Now he's got his own new name, but who wears goggles and my guy has antenna, but he's got these bug powers. He's like literally, high school me came up with, if you take SpiderMan and you take Blue Beetle and you put them in a blender, you get a real mess. But while I was looking at that mess and cleaning it up, I had time to create the bug. But two of the villains that started out as bug villains and ended up fighting my bad pun, America the Beautiful song lyric super character named team called the USA, the United Super Americans. I had them fight two villains called Rack and Ruin. And my Rack and Ruin have the ability to Rack can light up your entire nervous system, so you just feel intense physical pain. hence rack. Ruin, basically anything he touches crumbles and decays. So, that was my rack and ruin. Who are the villains in the beginning of this issue? Rack and Ruin. Meet Rack and Ruin. Alright, although his rack is, his are both R and R, whereas my rack was a W rack. But, I'm like, look at this. Keith Giffen came up with the same character names that I did. I'm like, so, yay.
Do they have the same powers?
No, his guys seem to turn into sort of like a superpowered stone that can be broken and repeat themselves together. And they have like crazy intense smiles that I'm not sure if are on their masks or actually their smiles. It never really gets past it. But regardless, not too worried since I really never planned on giving Rack and Ruin their own comic, so I'm not going to have to put a Rack and Ruin title up there. But I think like Keith Giffen. That book, so good. I have both covers, and I'm waiting on my Dynamic Forces signed by Keith Giffen cover, signed by Keith Giffen version that I ordered, because 2 copies of Blue Beetle number 1, Blue Beetle Rebirth number 1 were just not enough.
Yes, you have a sickness.
I do. It was so good. His original supporting cast are back, and complete with voodoo Hispanic gangster aunt. His sister is there, looking a little older than when last we saw her, but nonetheless, the family's intact. And really, well, we all know that Ted Kord will forever be my Blue Beetle, and in my head, Ted Kord should be running around repeating the mantra that Guy Gardner made famous during the 80s of, I'm the one true Green Lantern, so we should have the one true Blue Beetle. But the best part of the Jaime book, the original run of Jaime's book, was his full supporting cast. His family was great, and then they introduced Peacekeeper, all that. So to see Peacekeeper's not in this, but to see the crew, because the New 52, Tony Bedard did a good job because he's Tony Bedard, he writes well, but Tony Bedard was given the New 52 Blue Beetle, and it just didn't have the pieces weren't all there. It's like they gave him a puzzle and said, yeah, we took out 6 pieces, do what you can, and and they were all important picture pieces. But yes, Blue Beetle Rebirth number 1 is so good, and I'm not just saying that because I am completely 2,958.3% biased. I am saying that because
very specific number.
You're all ridiculously wrong if you think otherwise. That's what I'm saying. Saga, chapter 37. There's gonna be a new member of the family. We meet space meerkats. Prince Robot is hairless but well endowed. Has interesting sexual appetites.
Did he go back to Sextillion?
No, he's taking care of business by himself. But as opposed to whereas the rest of us, when we take our sex life into our own hands, just kind of think things. His face is a monitor, so what he's thinking of ranges from his wife to the dead, complete with the hole in her chest. What was the stalk?
Stalk.
2 guys doing it, just a girl from the back. Then it gets kind of blurry as he's checking around to go static, and boom, he's looking at our main heroine there. And he goes, what the hell is wrong with me? So that made me laugh. That he's been hanging around with this crew too long that now he wants to get off to them. There's all sorts of stories intersecting, crossing on. Like I said, we get space meerkats. Looks like we're going to get another addition to the Winghorn family. Hazel's going to be a big sister. And, of course, their ship is in trouble, so they have to go to the one place that other characters not there are talking about how important it is to not be at this particular moment. So their magical ability to be in the wrong place at exactly the wrong time is still intact. They still got that going on. Future Force number 4. The origin of this edition of
Future Quest.
Of Dino. What did I say?
Future Force.
No. But Future Quest number. No, I said Future Quest number 4. You heard the Force, not 4. So Future Quest number 4 has the origin of this version of Dino Boy. It possibly has the last appearance of the Mighty Mightor. We're not sure. Blip can draw. And we get a little backup origin, a little backup story featuring the origin of Frankenstein Jr. and Buzz. This may be the greatest thing in the history of reboots. This book is so good. So good. All new Wolverine Annual number 1. A villain, descendant of another villain, who's seeking revenge on original Wolverine, doesn't realize that original Wolverine doesn't live he doesn't live anywhere now, he's dead, but she doesn't realize he's not in his house, so she sets up a weapon that blasts new Wolverine, and ends up swapping her consciousness. The idea was to get her personality. She was going to blast Wolverine with a thing that would move his personality to someone in another dimension, that would therefore leave his personality to die, either in a person who doesn't have his powers, or with the fact that when it wears off in like 3 hours and their abilities and their minds switch back, if they're not in the exact spot they were in when they switched in the first place, that's where their mind will go to. So if they moved, like even if they, if someone was sleeping on the couch and wakes up and gets off the couch, when the personality comes back, both personalities are going to go to empty spaces where their body used to be, and their bodies will just be lifeless husks, mindless husks, and their persona will be gone. But in that coincidental way that only comic books will ever fully understand, Laura doesn't just end up in anybody's mind. She ends up inside the body of Spider-Gwen, and vice versa. So Spider-Gwen is running around trying to deal with being Wolverine. Wolverine is running around trying to deal with Spider-Gwen. And then Spider-Gwen's version of Reed Richards sends Spider-Gwen-Verine back so that they can try and fix the problem. And they do in a spectacularly calm, intelligent, and talky manner, rather than, the standard Wolverine slash fest, which was impressive. Also, Tom Taylor wrote this; it was really good. But you got Marcio Takara, and I love him. Howard the Duck series coming to an end. That's sad. We got one more issue, and this issue doesn't look good. Things go bad for Howard. Also, this storyline, we meet the two alien guys working for Mojo who've been messing with Howard's life and creating all the problems that he's had, and their names are, interestingly enough, Chip, Chipp, and Joe, Jho, almost as if to say they are Chip Zdarsky and Joe Quinones. So this is, if you can believe it, this is Chip Zdarsky's Howard the Duck version of Animal Man meets Grant Morrison. And for that concept alone, why are you not reading it? Amazing Spider-Man. Oh, nose. Oh, boy. So many spoilers. It's good. Don't get me wrong.
But
we lose two characters, two long-running characters, one of whom is on this cover and the other of whom is hinted at on this cover, so you figure it out. And we gained the female Electro, who, it's a good thing they don't go with the, Latin language. Well, female version of Electro would be Electra, because they already have one of those in the Marvel Universe. But yeah, we find out what the real thing is with Jackal's company of New You, and it's literally a New You. He's convinced, though Jackal keeps repeating over and over, and he really believes this, he's not the bad guy here. He and his little team are the good guys, and apparently, for multiple reasons, that some of which are quite obvious within the issue, Hobie, otherwise known as the Prowler, is starting to buy into this. Civil War II ties in with Spider-Man #7, where Miles Morales is soul-searching. He's really torn between what he should do, and he has a strong belief of what he wants to do, but he's not sure. It's all a bit overwhelming to get into this whole Civil War II aspect for a teenage superhero. Meanwhile, his grandmother has hired Jessica Jones to find out what's wrong with him. She thinks he's on drugs. As to why he keeps missing grade, not doing as well in school as he used to. And by the end of this issue, Miles Morales faces down with Jessica Jones and Luke Cage. Luke Cage, whose version of an introduction is, you know what people say when they first meet me? They say, uh-oh. So go on and say it. Go ahead. You know you want to. So, trouble for Spidey. Afterlife with Archie. The secret afterlife origin of Josie and the Pussycats. Josie McCoy has been alive since 1906. She and the rest of the Pussycats are vampires that reinvent themselves during each decade. They started out as like like World War II era, the boogie woogie beautiful, that kind of, and then they became, and they were the Cabot sisters. Then they became the Teen Queens in the 50s. Then they became the Velvets in the 60s, and then let's see, who did they come back as after that? In the 70s, they were the Queens of Disco, having a very similar to like a young Joan Jett kind of feel. The 80s was difficult for them because as vampires they had to be really cautious because the AIDS crisis was crazy, and they said they lost all that contaminated blood. They lost a lot of friends. Blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, there's the... they came back as the Sugar and Spice Girls, Twilight's Child, and then more recently, they went back to Riverdale, which is where they had started out all those years ago as the Cabot sisters, and now they passed themselves off as high school kids, started a garage band called Josie and the Pussycats, and they were coming back to do a special benefit concert on Halloween, the day after the Halloween dance. So they were returning, and when they hear that the city's on fire and all this stuff's going on, but they decide to land anyway. So next issue, if and when that ever comes out, should pick up with Vampiric Josie and the Pussycats joining the anti-zombie fight, or possibly just feasting on the survivors. One never knows.
Vampires do what vampires do.
Civil War II. In Steve Rogers' Captain America #4. This doesn't deal as much with the Civil War as it does with, although it's clearly happening around everything, but as it does with the Cap Hydra. What's baffling to me is I think these were poorly timed. Clearly they had this idea, and then the Civil War team was going on and whatever, and they didn't really think it through because here's why Tony's team is right in Civil War. If this kid is any good at seeing the future, he should see some form of fight, battle, conclusion to the Cap's been reinvented by the sentient cosmic cube into thinking that he's a member of Hydra. That should be, if this guy could see I thought this Wolverine might kill some chick you've never heard of, and the Hulk might attack everybody, but then there's no reason that he's not seeing, Cap's gonna kill Red Skull and then take over Hydra to take over the world. That seems like the kind of thing that should make your inhuman sense tingle. Just saying.
Just a little bit.
Civil War II, Choosing Sides, number 5. Alpha Flight, Colleen Wing, and Nick Fury. I don't know who drew the Colleen Wing story. That's what I want to look for, but I really loved that art. So, where are you? Anytime you can have like a fight on the roof of a van with Man-Thing is a good day. Because it's Colleen Wing and like the Howling Commandos, so that's always fun. They must just put it all in the front. Colleen Wing was artist was Anna Paula Martello, beautiful, and Nolan Woodard on colors, beautiful. Enrique Carrion, first off, cool last name. Second off, was good. Chip Zdarsky and Ramon Perez did the Alpha Flight story, which is really less of an Alpha Flight story and more of a Prime Minister Justin Trudeau story. Apparently Justin Trudeau, the actual real-life Prime Minister of Canada, has a weekly sparring match in a boxing with Tony Stark, and even wins. So, Canada. And then the Nick Fury story, Nick has a little discussion, fight with with a life model decoy of his dad. Uncanny Avengers, number 13. This one was interesting. Mostly because they don't necessarily write Cap outside of Cap as being a Hydra guy, but Cap is warned that Cable's going to start some shit. And it turns out Cable's got a plane with Rogue, Sebastian Shaw, and the Toad, because they think there's a hidden cure to the Terrigen Mist virus, the cure for mutants to the Terrigen Mist effect. So they're out to get that, and it may or may not cause some serious trouble. Meanwhile, Wade Wilson, Deadpool, and Clint Hawkeye Barton have a heart-to-heart and understand each other a little bit better. And what was probably one of the coolest little stories of, I think Deadpool has a new respect for and they both, it was a nice little bonding moment between two people who were normally so polarizingly against each other, but now their worlds cross in so much as Clint has now killed the Hulk, and it's hard to judge someone like who does all the killing that Wade does if you just killed your own friend. And they discuss that, and as Wade tries with the best intentions, a little jailbreak that Clint won't do because Clint genuinely feels like shit about having killed Banner, and it was really, really good. Han Solo. Han has to do some smooth talking to keep the race going. He's still trying to win the race that's just supposed to be his cover, and we get a plot wrinkle in the fact that one of the informants that they've picked up is fairly certain that one of the other informants must be the killer, or possibly himself. So Han and Chewie are about to be fighting, trying to win this race with a smuggled load of rebel informants, or imperial informants who've been informing to the rebels, one of whom is trying to kill all the others. So, the plot thickens. The art in here is beautiful, and at best, there are like almost photo perfect pictures, where it's just so clearly Harrison Ford. At worst, it's stylized representation of Harrison Ford that it's still so clear that it's supposed to be Harrison Ford. He is a Canadian superhero worth talking about. The Pitiful Human Lizard. This entire book is just a field trip where the girl he likes, Miss in this day, she's Miss Martin, but she's also a superhero known as Lady Accident. Invites him to class to talk to the kids, where he gives a imaginative retelling of his origin, and then leaves. And he was almost impressive, and then the kids are like, "Is he gonna fly away? He can't fly, stupid!" And he literally stands at the street, and then a bus comes, and he just walks on the bus stop, and that's literally, it's just an issue of him doing a presentation with the kids. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And then we have a backup story in which called The Bear and the Rat, in which his little friend King Rat, or whatever he calls himself, teams up with someone called the Grizzly Biker. There was an urban myth of a mutated circus bear who broods in the darkness of the sewers and beats up boogeymen. He's my friend too. Actually, he's more Carter and Molnick's buddy, since they shared experimental mutation experiences. So yeah, he's the Grizzly Biker, and King Rat kind of team up and do what it is they do. Oh, man. I'm back to the full-on yawning phase because my students are exhausting. And the payback's number 2. We lose some more people. We get some more amusement. And find out that betraying a team isn't necessarily healthy. Especially if you're working with your own mother. And just so many great moments, including even just the inside cover. Instead of telling you a little bit about it just gives you the names of the characters and then gives you their comic book reading list. Emery Rains, currently reading Sheriff of Babylon by King and Gerards and loving it. Blood Pouch, currently reading, just did his annual full reread of Claremont and Byrne X-Men comics. Skisquatch, you can't read comics when you're dead, kids, because he's dead. Misadventure, currently reading, catching up on Rebirth titles, really digging Williamson's Flash. Night, currently reading, not much, but he's stoked about that new Star Trek Waypoint book. Soviet Nunchuck, currently reading Total Indie Kid, won't shut up about Space Riders by Rangel and Zirit. Driver, pronounces Magneto in whatever fashion you think is incorrect. So, if you're a Magneto person, he says Magneto. If you're a Magneto person, he says Magneto. The Matador, not a comic guy really, but he's been watching Stranger Things like someone's going to take it away from him. Jacob Destruction, he lays the comics on the floor and then rolls his ball on top of them and it doesn't really work. Kid's in a permanent force bubble, so he tries to read comics that doesn't really work. Dr. Black, currently reading The Paybacks. Wait, what? High Guard, comments a lot on forums about how Cap is a Nazi now, but he never actually read the book. Ugh, what a dick. And Mr. Pierce, legit thinks Spider-Man is a menace. Literally, for the inside front covers alone, which I hope to God, I didn't look in my first trade, I hope to God those inside front covers find their way to be reprinted in the trades. I'll be devastated.
But they probably won't.
I'll have to recheck. And that brings us to the end of our pile. I don't remember putting my glasses on my head.
And yet there they are.
Alright, interwebs, I'm turning into my father. Goodbye.
Thanks for watching another video from Gonna Geek. If you like geeky stuff, check out our podcast network, our news and articles, and our community forums. You can find it all at GonnaGeek.com, like us at Facebook.com/GonnaGeek, tweet us at GonnaGeek, subscribe to our YouTube channel at YouTube.com/GonnaGeek, and check out our live programming at GonnaGeek.com/live.